She came from a modest background in Los Angeles. She had a career that never quite reached the heights she believed it deserved. And then, quite suddenly, she found herself engaged to the grandson of the longest-reigning monarch in British history. For most people, or virtually anyone you could imagine, that would have been more than enough. That would have been the extraordinary, improbable dream. But according to Tom Bower, one of Britain's most respected royal biographers and the author of a forensic, devastating examination of the Sussex years, for Meghan Markle, it was never enough. Not nearly enough. Because what Meghan wanted, what she believed she deserved, went far beyond a palace apartment and a tiara on loan. According to sources deep within the British establishment, sources who had direct access to the palace and direct access to the Queen herself, Meghan Markle wanted the crown. Not Prince Harry's ceremonial role, not charity work, not royal tours with their careful protocol and ordered formality, the actual crown. She believed, according to Bower, that she, not Catherine, Princess of Wales, should be the future Queen of England. When you hear it said aloud, it sounds almost too extraordinary to be true. And yet, Tom Bower, who has spent years going through hours of footage, conducting interviews at the highest levels, and cross-referencing every account against every other, lays it out with the quiet certainty of a man who has done his homework. This is not tabloid speculation. This is testimony from inside the institution itself. So how did it come to this? How did a woman who, by her own account, knew nothing of the royal family before she met Prince Harry end up convinced she should sit beside the king as his future queen? And what happened when the people around her realized exactly what she believed? That is the story we are telling today. Let us begin at the very beginning. Before the wedding at St. George's Chapel, before the fairy tale photographs, the Commonwealth tour, the Netflix documentary, and the Oprah Winfrey interview, before any of it, because Tom Bower's book reveals something that has received remarkably little attention, given how significant it is. A highly respected figure within the British establishment, someone with direct knowledge of how the royal family operates, was brought in to meet Meghan before the marriage. They were brought in specifically to explain what her life would look like as a royal duchess, what the duties would be, what the expectations were, and what it would actually mean to marry into this ancient, complex institution. This person met with Meghan repeatedly, every few weeks, returning to Kensington Palace, and doing their very best to prepare her. And very quickly, almost immediately, according to Tom Bower, they realized something was badly wrong. Meghan, this senior figure concluded, had absolutely no intention of following the rules. She was not interested in learning how the institution worked. She was not interested in understanding the centuries of protocol and precedent that govern royal life. She had no intention, this person believed, of staying. That assessment was reportedly passed back to the Queen, and to others within the family. And the conclusion drawn quietly behind closed doors, before a single wedding guest had taken their seat, was this. This marriage was not going to last. That is an extraordinary thing to know. It means that even as the world watched Meghan walk up the aisle of St. George's Chapel, even as the cameras swept across the congregation, as the music played and Prince Harry's eyes glistened, the people who ran that institution already suspected this was going to end in disaster. And buried within all of this was a detail so revealing it deserves to stand on its own. Meghan had reportedly told people she hoped her father would not come to the wedding. Not weeks before, not after the photograph scandal broke, months before, long before Thomas Markle's heart attack became the convenient excuse, she had already quietly decided he was not part of the image she was building. Now here is where the story takes a turn that genuinely stops you in your tracks. We have always known, of course, that there was rivalry and tension between the two couples, Prince William and Catherine, Princess of Wales on one side, and Prince Harry and Meghan on the other. That tension has been documented exhaustively. We have all watched the footage. We have all read the interviews. But what Tom Bower reveals goes considerably further than rivalry, further than jealousy, and further than the competitive atmosphere that surrounds any royal court. Bower's sources, establishment figures with direct knowledge, claim that Meghan had reached a conclusion about her position within the royal family that was, in a word, delusional. She reportedly believed that she was superior to Catherine, Princess of Wales, better looking, more intelligent, more hardworking, and more deserving. And therefore, in Meghan's own internal logic, she, not Catherine, should be the future queen. Think about what that means. Catherine is married to Prince William, the Prince of Wales, the direct heir to the throne. The line of succession is not a matter of personal opinion or merit. It is constitutional fact. It is centuries of law and tradition. But Meghan, according to Bauer's sources, was not interested in constitutional fact. She was interested in what she believed she deserved. And she could not understand. She genuinely could not comprehend why someone she considered less capable than herself should one day wear the crown she coveted. It was reportedly passed back to the Queen by the senior establishment figure who had tried, week after week, to prepare Meghan for royal life. They made sure it was known that Meghan believed that once she married into the royal family, those were the words reportedly used. According to Tom Bauer, Meghan believed she was going to be God. And that tells you everything you need to know about why what followed was inevitable. Once you understand that, everything else falls into place. The decision to leave, the Oprah Winfrey interview, the Netflix series, the book, and the constant drip of stories about what happened inside the palace. What was said, what was done. None of it, according to Bauer, was random. None of it was simply the wounded reaction of two people who felt unwelcome. According to Tom Bauer, what drove Meghan from the institution was not the institution's failure to embrace her. It was the institution's failure to give her what she believed was hers by right. And when she realized she was not going to get it, when she understood that Catherine, Princess of Wales, would always outrank her, that Prince William would always outrank Prince Harry, and that she was always going to be second, the response was not acceptance. The response was war. Tom Bauer's book is called Betrayal, and that word is chosen with precision, because what Bauer argues, meticulously and with considerable evidence, is that what followed their departure from royal life was not simply a couple making a new start. It was a deliberate, sustained campaign to damage the institution that had refused to give Meghan what she believed she deserved. She is now paying the price of her betrayal. Those are Tom Bauer's words. And when you understand what allegedly drove the original decision, the belief that she deserved to be queen, the fury at being relegated, and the refusal to accept her actual position, then the scale of what followed becomes comprehensible. You can trace a direct line from that establishment figure sitting opposite Meghan in Kensington Palace, realizing with dawning horror that this woman had no intention of following the rules, all the way through to Oprah Winfrey, Netflix, Spare, and every interview, allegation, and carefully strategic revelation that followed. It was all, Bauer suggests, inevitable from day one. Tom Bauer is not a man prone to exaggeration. He is a biographer of extraordinary rigor, a journalist who has spent decades holding powerful people to account. His previous subjects have included Robert Maxwell, Tony Blair, Gordon Brown, and Richard Branson, people who had the resources, the lawyers, and the motivation to challenge every claim he made. His book Revenge, about the Sussexes, and its follow-up Betrayal, were both subjected to intense legal scrutiny before publication. Every claim was tested. Every source was assessed. What made it into print was what withstood that process. So when Tom Bauer says that Meghan's ambition was to be queen, he is not reaching for a headline. He is reporting what he was told by people who were there. People with direct knowledge of what Meghan said, what she believed, and what she wanted. And he goes further, because the revelation about her ambition is only one thread in a much larger, far more damaging picture. Bauer also claims that Meghan's treatment of Catherine, Princess of Wales, was not simply competitive. It was deliberate. Every time Prince William and Catherine achieved something, a public moment, a tour, an initiative, Meghan would allegedly engineer something to cut across it, overshadow it, and ensure that attention did not linger too long on the woman she believed she should have outranked. Bauer describes it as really quite ugly, quite nasty. And when you hear those words from a man who does not traffic in hyperbole, they carry an entirely different weight. None of this emerged in a vacuum. The signs, Bauer argues, were there from the very beginning. If you knew where to look, and if you were willing to see what was right in front of you. Then there is the matter of the Oprah Winfrey interview. 1 week before the interview aired, Bauer reveals that the palace allegedly discovered its contents through a trusted source at ITV in London, which had purchased the rights from CBS. The response, according to Bauer, was swift. 4 days before the broadcast, details of the memorandum. The memorandum documenting Meghan's alleged bullying of staff was leaked to the Times. That memorandum, written by a senior aide, had reportedly been seen by only a handful of people. For it to reach a journalist, someone at the very top of the institution would have had to approve it. Tom Bower's conclusion is straightforward. Prince William knew, and William authorized it. Not because he was being petty, and not because it was gossip, but because 1 week before his sister-in-law was about to go on American television and tell the world that the royal family was racist, indifferent to mental illness, and had driven her to despair, someone needed to put the other side on record. And Bower documents something else, something that goes to the very heart of who Meghan is and how she operates. The quote attributed to Catherine, Princess of Wales, that memorable line delivered years earlier, "He's lucky I chose him," was reportedly echoed by Meghan, using almost the same words, the same construction, and the same sentiment. Meghan denies knowing much about Catherine. She denies having studied her. She claims the royal family was an unknown world to her before Prince Harry. And yet, as Bower notes, she wrote about Catherine's wedding on her personal blog. She knew. She had always known, and she used what she knew. It would be easy at this point to focus entirely on Meghan. In many ways, she is the more vivid figure, more driven, more strategic, and more deliberate in everything she does. But the story of the Sussex departure cannot be told honestly without examining Prince Harry's role in it. And Tom Bower's portrait of Harry is, in its own way, almost as damaging. Not because Harry is malicious, but because he is, in Bower's assessment, profoundly limited, a man of limited intellect and limited depth whose understanding of the world around him, according to Tom Bower's portrayal, was shaped by a very particular and narrow upbringing, and when confronted with information that challenged his self-image, he struggled to process it. The anecdote Bower recounts about a mental health conference in New York is striking. Carson Daly, the presenter, asks Prince Harry directly, "What is your solution to the crisis of children's mental health and social media?" Harry responds, "I don't know." At a conference he was attending specifically to advocate on the issue, he admits he does not know. Meghan Markle, meanwhile, steps in. In Bower's account, she often takes a more leading role in public exchanges, and the footage he references shows her engaging quickly when the conversation shifts. Whether interpreted as support or intervention, it is presented by Bower as a dynamic that reflects how the partnership operates in public. Meghan speaking more assertively, and Harry following her lead. Given what Harry says when left to his own devices, one can almost see the logic. Almost. But not quite, because there is something deeply uncomfortable about watching a grown man, a prince, a military veteran, and a father being managed in public by his wife as though he is a liability she has to contain. So if Harry is the passenger, who is driving? And where exactly are they trying to go? Tom Bower's answer to that question is, in its own way, rather brilliant because he does not reduce Meghan Markle to a simple caricature. He does not say she is stupid, impulsive, or merely reactive. He says something considerably more precise. He says she is calculating, that she has a clear agenda, and she pursues it with relentless focus. And that the agenda has always been the same: fame, relevance, power, and the money needed to sustain the extraordinary lifestyle she has built in Montecito. But here is where the strategy begins to unravel, because the strategy was always dependent on one thing: that Meghan Markle had something to offer beyond her connection to the royal family. That she had talent, charisma, and the elusive quality that transforms a moderately successful actress into a genuine star. And Tom Bower is quite brutal about this. For all her resilience, and he does acknowledge she has considerable resilience, he argues there is no mystery, no real talent, no great genius. In his assessment, she is a B-movie actress who did not quite make it, who married well but cannot deliver the magic required of a genuine star. The Netflix show was meant to solve this problem. The domestic goddess rebrand, the cooking, the lifestyle, and the carefully curated image of sunshine and abundance were intended to establish Meghan Markle as the next Gwyneth Paltrow, the next Martha Stewart, someone with a brand so powerful it exists entirely independent of Prince Harry, the royal family, the drama, the grievances, and the legal battles. But you cannot manufacture mystery. You cannot manufacture the quality that makes people genuinely want to watch you, genuinely want to know what you think, and genuinely want to buy what you are selling. And every time Meghan Markle steps out and speaks, in Colombia, in Nigeria, or in interviews like the one with Variety, she reveals, according to Bauer, that she is rather ordinary. And for someone who believes she should have been queen, that must be an extraordinarily bitter thing to realize. Every version of events has a counterversion. And one of the most valuable things Tom Bauer does in his book is systematically place Meghan Markle's own accounts and interviews. Her declarations and her carefully constructed narrative are placed alongside what the evidence actually shows. The Oprah Winfrey interview told the world that Meghan Markle received no preparation for royal life, that she was thrown in without guidance, support, or anyone explaining the rules. Yet the establishment figure who met with her every few weeks at Kensington Palace would reportedly beg to differ. The interviews also suggested that Meghan Markle never knew anything about the royal family before she met Prince Harry, that she had no idea who he was. However, she had previously written about Catherine, Princess of Wales's wedding on her personal blog, suggesting she had, in fact, followed the family. The story of Thomas Markle, told in interviews as the tragedy of a father who let her down at the last minute, is, according to Tom Bauer, something rather different. A father who was never truly wanted there in the first place, an embarrassment to a woman who, in his view, had decided she belonged among the Clooneys rather than Thomas Markle from Woodland Hills. And then there is the car chase, an extraordinary episode in the streets of New York, described to the world as a near-catastrophic pursuit, a terrifying ordeal, and a serious and present danger to their lives. Tom Bauer went to the police precinct where the Sussexes allegedly sought refuge. The police denied they had ever entered the building, denied they had been given protection, and denied there had been any danger at all. But here is what is interesting about the car chase. Beyond the simple question of whether it happened exactly as described, Tom Bauer argues it was theater, deliberate, purposeful theater staged at a very specific moment when a judge in London was hearing Prince Harry's application for publicly funded security when he visited Britain. The car chase was, in Bauer's view, designed to influence that judge, to demonstrate that Prince Harry was a man in genuine danger who required genuine protection. The judge ultimately rejected the application, and Prince Harry lost the case. He has since appealed. Theater, it seems, has its limits. And somewhere in all of this, somewhere between strategy and theater, victimhood and the desperate scramble for relevance, there are two children, Prince Archie and Princess Lilibet. Prince Archie, who is 6 years old, and Princess Lilibet, who is 3, are being raised in a house in Montecito, California by parents who are, by any objective measure, in the middle of a slow-moving crisis. The money is tighter than the lifestyle suggests. The Netflix deal has run its course, and the Spotify deal ended badly, so badly that the people who commissioned it made clear they never wanted to work with Prince Harry again. The speaking engagements are harder to come by, the A-list lunch parties in Montecito have dried up, and the famous friends have quietly moved on. Meanwhile, in Windsor, 3 other children are growing up: Prince George, Princess Charlotte, and Prince Louis. Children who will one day carry the full weight of the institution their parents have spent their lives serving. Children whose parents have, through genuine hardship and genuine sacrifice, demonstrated what it means to put duty before self. The contrast, when you hold it up to the light, is quite stark. On one side, a couple who gave up everything they were offered because it was not enough. On the other, a couple who accepted everything that was asked of them because they understood it was never really about them. And the children on both sides will one day read what was said, one day understand what was done, and one day know exactly what their parents chose. The royal family as an institution does not panic. It does not react in the heat of the moment. It does not issue furious rebuttals or demand public apologies. It waits. It endures. And then very quietly, it makes its position known. Tom Bauer's book captures a moment that, in his view, illuminates this perfectly. When King Charles III and Catherine, Princess of Wales, were both diagnosed with serious illness within weeks of one another, the world watched closely to see how Prince Harry and Meghan Markle would respond. Prince Harry made a brief trip to London to see his father. On the surface, it looked like a gesture of reconciliation, but Bauer is skeptical. He argues the visit was contrived and did not fully resemble a genuine act of filial concern. Instead, he suggests it made more sense as a public relations maneuver. As for Meghan Markle's response to Catherine, Princess of Wales' illness, the woman she believed should never have outranked her, Bauer does not mince his words. He claims the Sussex PR operation jumped on Catherine in the most nasty manner, using her illness, the controversy around a photograph error, and even suggesting at the height of her cancer treatment that a woman spotted shopping with Prince William was not really her at all. Through all of this, Catherine, Princess of Wales, said nothing. Not a word. She has, as Bauer notes, remained consistently silent throughout the controversy, publicly criticized the Sussex operation, or the people who work for it. She has absorbed every attack with a steadiness and a dignity that, frankly, makes the contrast with the Montecito operation rather difficult to ignore. There is a line from Princess and that Tom Bauer records, delivered before any of the really dramatic chapters of this story had unfolded. Meghan Markle was gripped by red carpet fever. Nothing would deter her search for the spotlight. It is hard to argue with that prediction, at least in the way Bauer frames it. There is a word he uses about Meghan Markle that he clearly considers precisely chosen: victimhood. He argues that victimhood is her religion, the justification for her aggression, and the framework through which she interprets every setback, every criticism, and every moment the world does not arrange itself according to her expectations. It is quite a diagnosis, and in Bauer's view it explains a great deal. It explains why, when a brand expert was brought in to present Prince Harry with analysis of how his public image had suffered as a result of his own behavior, straightforward professional work, the kind routinely done for public figures across the world, Prince Harry's response was to claim psychological harm, saying the audit had left him traumatized and damaged him. The woman who conducted that audit, Bauer reports, found the situation very difficult and distressing, because she had been brought in to help give the Sussexes an honest assessment of where they stood and how they might recover, and was met with the response of a man who refused to accept that his own choices had consequences. It is, as Tom Bauer says, not funny, tragic. What it reveals, in his view, is a complete lack of self-awareness and any real understanding of reality. An arrogant royal behaving as though the normal rules of cause and effect simply do not apply to him. And that, Bauer suggests, is the true legacy of a childhood spent never being told no, of an institution that protected him so completely that he arrived in adult life genuinely believing the world owed him not merely respect, but deference. Then he married a woman who, in Bauer's framing, shared the same belief, and the two of them have spent the years since colliding with the reality that the world does not, in fact, agree. We cannot tell this story without addressing Spare. The memoir that shook the royal family, sold millions of copies around the world, and according to Tom Bauer, revealed rather more about its subject than its subject intended. Bauer spoke to someone at the publisher Random House who was deeply involved in the editing of the book. The process, this person told him, was chaotic, fractious, divisive, and counterproductive. The relationship with Prince Harry was so difficult that by the end of it, no one at the publisher reportedly wanted to work with him again. The ghostwriter, Bauer says, effectively wrote a book about his own experiences and inserted Prince Harry into them, because Harry himself was so uncertain about his own narrative that the ghostwriter ended up working around him rather than with him. But there is a detail Bauer drops almost as an aside that deserves to be heard clearly. Prince Harry knew the book was coming out. He recorded the audiobook himself, which means he read every single page aloud, every word the ghostwriter chose. And at no point, not once, did Prince Harry stop and think, "Is this a good idea? Is this how I want to be remembered? Is the word that appears in these pages 8 times really the legacy I want to leave?" Tom Bauer's answer is simple. Prince Harry is, in his view, only ever fixated on the arguments, on how to undermine Prince William, how to wound Catherine, Princess of Wales, how harsh he can be about Queen Camilla, and what he can say about his father, King Charles III. That, Bauer argues, is the entirety of his emotional landscape. A book that was originally scheduled to be published while Queen Elizabeth II was still alive, full of family secrets and personal revelations about a grandmother still sitting on the throne, tells you, in Bauer's interpretation, everything you need to know about how little regard he had for her, whatever grief he later expressed at her passing. The famous friends are gone. The ones who once rallied around Meghan Markle in the early days. The big names, the powerful women, the people whose association conferred a kind of legitimacy that no amount of royal connection can fully replace, are gone. Bauer is blunt about why. People at that level of fame and power are always scanning the horizon, always assessing who is useful and who has become a liability. And the moment the Sussex brand began to look uncertain, the moment there was any hint of weakness or disapproval, those people quietly found other lunch tables to sit at. The carefully orchestrated appearances at Montecito restaurants, engineered to generate photographs, tabloid mentions, and the impression of a glamorous, relevant life, have faded. The A-list sightings have thinned. The energy that once surrounded the Sussexes, the magnetic pull of a couple who seemed to combine royal glamour with Hollywood cool, has dissipated. And in its place is something more uncomfortable. The desperation that Tom Bauer identifies, and which he suggests is becoming visible to anyone paying attention, is starting to resemble a dynamic observers have seen before. Prince Andrew and Sarah Ferguson, the reckless spending, the constant grasping for relevance, the sense of a couple lurching from one scheme to the next, hoping that something will land. The difference, Bauer is careful to note, is that Prince Harry and Meghan Markle are not stupid in the way that Prince Andrew and Sarah Ferguson were sometimes portrayed. They are operating with more self-awareness, more sophistication, and more strategic intent. But the destination, if the trajectory continues, may not look very different. There is a car crash coming, Bauer says, they just do not know the route to it. Step back from all of it. Step back from the Columbia wardrobe changes, the car chase theater, the Oprah Winfrey revelations, the spare serializations, and the Netflix specials. Step back from the noise, the drama, and the relentless cycle of revelation and counter-revelation. What you are left with, in Bauer's framing, is a woman who came into one of the world's most ancient institutions believing she was its equal and deserving of its highest prize. Believing that merit, her merit specifically, should override centuries of constitutional law, tradition, and established order. And when that institution declined to agree, she decided to burn it. According to Tom Bauer, betrayal is the right word, because betrayal requires trust, proximity, and the sense that the person who was betrayed was once open to, accepted, and given something real. The royal family, in this framing, offered Meghan Markle a life that most people on Earth could not imagine. And she took it, and Bauer argues used it. When it did not deliver everything she believed she was owed, she walked away and told the world it had tried to destroy her. Princess and saw it coming. The establishment figure who sat opposite her in Kensington Palace saw it coming. The Queen, by the end, understood exactly what she was dealing with. And now, in a house in Montecito, a woman who once believed she should be queen is trying to sell jam and lifestyle content to an audience that, by the day, is harder to reach. There is a moral to this story. Tom Bauer states it plainly. You can get glory for 5 minutes, but when the flame goes out, you are in great trouble. And that, in the end, is why she should not have betrayed all those people who trusted her. She is now, in his view, living with the consequences. Tom Bauer has done something in this book that very few writers have managed. He has taken a story the world thinks it already knows. The story of Prince Harry and Meghan Markle, the departure, the interviews, the grievances, and shown what he argues is the architecture beneath it. The plan that was always there, the ambition that drove everything, and the belief, held with total sincerity, that Meghan Markle deserved not just a place in the royal family, but its most coveted position. A slow, very public unraveling that followed when the world declined to agree. The flame, as Tom Bauer says, has gone out. What remains is the question of what comes next. For 2 people in California, for 2 children who did not choose any of this, and for a royal family that has endured far worse and, in Bauer's framing, come through it with its dignity intact. Prince William and Catherine, Princess of Wales, meanwhile, are simply getting on with it as they always have, as they were always going to. That, in the end, may be the most telling detail of all.